Have you ever wondered what specific chemical reaction in your brain makes it nearly impossible to stop paying for everyday convenience? You look at your bank statement at the end of the month and see dozens of small charges for food delivery, ride shares, and premium subscriptions. You feel a sudden wave of guilt. You promise yourself that you will cook at home, walk the extra blocks, and cancel the apps you don't need. But then Tuesday evening rolls around, you're exhausted from work, and with 2 taps on your screen, dinner is on its way. You're not broken, you're not bad with money, your brain is just doing exactly what millions of years of evolution trained it to do. It's conserving energy. Financial gurus will shout at you, telling you that if you just had more discipline, you'd be wealthy. They tell you to cut out the coffee, delete the apps, and rely on sheer willpower to build a better future. But here is the brutal truth those gurus don't understand about human biology. Willpower is the worst possible tool for managing money. To understand why convenience has such a stranglehold on our wallets, we have to look directly at neuroscience. Every single day, you wake up with a finite amount of mental energy. Every decision you make, from what to wear to how to respond to an annoying email, burns a tiny amount of that fuel. By the time you get off work, your brain is running on fumes. This biological state is a well-documented phenomenon called decision fatigue. When you're in a state of decision fatigue, your brain actively looks for shortcuts. It shuts down the complex analytical processing centers that care about long-term goals like retirement. Instead, it activates the primitive reward centers that only care about immediate relief. And in the modern economy, immediate relief is always for sale. Convenience has been weaponized by technology companies to target your brain exactly when its defenses are down. Stay with me because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see your daily spending habits. The companies that built the apps on your phone didn't just hire software engineers. They hired behavioral psychologists and neuroscientists. They mapped out the exact friction points where a human being might hesitate before spending money. Then, they systematically eliminated every single one of them. They designed interfaces that released dopamine just by swiping a button. Think about the physical act of buying something 20 years ago. You had to drive to a store, physically pull paper money out of a wallet, and hand it to another human being. That process was loaded with friction. That friction gave your brain time to evaluate the purchase. It gave your analytical mind a chance to step in and ask if the purchase was truly necessary. Today, that friction is gone. You don't even look at a price tag. Facial recognition authorizes the payment in milliseconds. We live in an era where the pain of paying has been mathematically erased from the consumer experience. Behavioral economists refer to this as a cognitive disconnect. Because you aren't physically handing over cash, your brain doesn't register the loss. It only registers the immediate reward of the convenience. You get the food or the ride without the biological sting of losing resources. It's a highly calculated business model designed to bypass your logical filters. We're trying to fight a massive algorithmic machine with nothing but a sticky note budget. Every time you rely on willpower to resist convenience, you're fighting against the survival wiring of your brain. Over a long enough timeline, biology always wins. We have to change our approach entirely. To stop bleeding cash, we must stop trying to be more disciplined. Instead, we have to become architects of our environment, building systems that protect us from our own exhausted minds by making bad habits difficult and good habits automatic. Let us take a journey back in time, far before smartphones and credit cards existed. For hundreds of thousands of years, the human brain had one primary directive, which was simply to keep you alive. To do this, it had to be incredibly efficient at managing energy. Making complex, stressful choices burns massive amounts of glucose in the brain. So, evolution gave us a brilliant survival mechanism. Whenever we get tired, our brains automatically default to the easiest, most energy-efficient option available. Fast forward to today, and you are carrying that exact same ancient hardware inside your skull. But instead of navigating the wilderness, you are navigating the most overstimulating economic environment in human history. Every single day, from the moment your alarm goes off, you are bombarded with choices. What to wear, what to say in a meeting, which emails to prioritize. Every single one of these micro choices acts like a tiny leak in your mental fuel tank. This brings us to a foundational concept in behavioral finance known as decision fatigue. Imagine your willpower as a battery on your phone. You wake up with it charged to 100%, but as the day drags on, every single choice you make drains that battery just a little bit more. The cognitive drain is real, and it is cumulative. By the time the evening rolls around, your battery is firmly in the red. This is not just a theory. Behavioral economists at the University of Chicago have spent years studying this exact phenomenon. They found that as people experience high cognitive load, their ability to make rational, long-term financial decisions completely collapses. When that mental battery drains, the logical, forward-thinking part of your brain basically goes offline. It hands the steering wheel over to the primitive part of your brain that only cares about immediate comfort. Here is what nobody tells you about the convenience economy. The modern corporate landscape is perfectly engineered to wait for that exact moment of biological surrender. The major tech companies and digital retailers are not competing for your money. They are competing for your exhaustion. They know that at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, after a brutal day at work, you have no willpower left to defend your wallet. They have built multi-billion-dollar empires acting as a toll booth on your path of least resistance. When you are tired, convenience stops looking like a luxury and starts feeling like an absolute necessity. You are not paying a premium for food delivery because you are lazy. You are paying a premium because your brain is screaming for a break. You are buying a momentary hit of dopamine to soothe a depleted nervous system. This is exactly why the traditional financial advice you hear is so unbelievably toxic. Financial experts stand on a stage and tell you that wealth is just a matter of self-control. They tell you to just say no to the takeout and be more disciplined. They are asking you to use a drained battery to power a massive machine. It is biologically impossible to sustain that level of friction through willpower alone. When you fail at this, and you inevitably will, you blame yourself. You feel a deep sense of shame. You look at your empty savings account and tell yourself that you lack the character required to build wealth. But I need you to hear this loud and clear. Your brain is functioning perfectly. It is just trapped in a digital ecosystem that was explicitly designed to exploit its natural energy-saving functions. We have to completely abandon the idea that we can outsmart convenience through sheer mental grit. Willpower depletion is a biological law, and you cannot budget your way out of a biological law. If we want to actually keep our money, we have to change the battlefield entirely and start building systems that assume we have absolutely zero discipline left at the end of the day. Let us examine the most common and devastating battleground for this biological hijack. It is 6:30 in the evening on a random Tuesday. You have perfectly good groceries sitting in your refrigerator. You had every intention of making the meal you meticulously planned out on Sunday afternoon. But you just spent the last 8 hours making rapid-fire decisions at work, navigating through heavy traffic, and absorbing the stress of everyone around you. Your brain is swimming in a deep, heavy state of willpower depletion. The glucose levels in your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for long-term planning, are completely bottomed out. You collapse onto the couch, pull out your smartphone, and open a food delivery app. This is the trap. It feels completely justified in the exact moment you do it because you are viewing the purchase as a necessary reward for merely surviving the day. You look at the total and tell yourself it is just $30. You convince your tired mind that it is an isolated, one-off event that will not seriously impact your financial future. This is a textbook example of mental accounting, a dangerous cognitive illusion, where your brain deliberately isolates a single expense so you can avoid feeling the cumulative pain of the pattern. You lie to yourself, saying you will make up for it tomorrow. But what you are actually experiencing on that couch is a highly orchestrated psychological assault. You are engaging with a piece of software that was designed to bypass your logical defenses entirely. Research from Stanford's Graduate School of Business has extensively studied the hidden mechanics of frictionless spending. Their behavioral scientists wanted to understand what happens to consumer logic when the physical act of paying is digitized and hidden. Their findings reveal a terrifying reality about our modern economy. When an application removes all physical barriers to payment, people do not just buy more frequently. They actually spend significantly more money per single transaction. The Stanford researchers discovered that the interface of a delivery app is fundamentally designed to act like a digital slot machine. It triggers a massive dopamine release in your brain long before the food ever actually arrives at your front door. The vibrant, high-definition photos of the food, the real-time tracking map showing a little car moving closer to your street, the carefully timed push notifications updating you on the driver's exact progress. All of these digital elements are meticulously engineered to hijack your brain's ancient reward center. They give you a sense of control and anticipation that chemically soothes your exhausted nerves. You have to realize that you are not just paying an inflated price for a basic meal. You are paying a massive, invisible convenience tax simply to sedate your tired nervous system. And because your credit card information is already securely saved within the application system, you experience absolutely zero cognitive friction when you finally check out. Your brain never registers the financial loss. You do not have to think about the money leaving your bank account. You just double-click the side button on your phone, scan your face, and the transaction is legally complete in under 3 seconds. It happens so fast that your analytical brain literally does not have the processing time required to intervene and stop you. To beat this specific trap, you cannot just promise yourself that you will be better tomorrow. Relying on future willpower is a guaranteed path to failure. You have to fight corporate software engineering with artificial, physical friction. The system fix for this problem is incredibly simple, deeply annoying, and highly effective. You must open your phone right now, go into the settings of every single delivery app you have downloaded, and manually delete your saved payment methods. Remove all digital wallet integrations. Delete the saved credit card data. Force yourself to get up off the couch, walk across the room, find your physical wallet, and manually type in a 16-digit card number, an expiration date, and a security code every single time you want to order food. By introducing just 3 minutes of highly annoying, deliberate friction into the process, you change the chemistry of the transaction. You are no longer mindlessly swiping for a dopamine hit. You are forcing yourself to engage in a tedious, physical task. That artificial friction gives your logical, forward-thinking brain the exact amount of time and space it needs to wake up, evaluate the $30 charge, and remind you that there is perfectly good food waiting for you in the kitchen. Let us move on to a completely different type of financial trap, one that operates silently in the background of your life. It usually starts with a free trial or a seemingly insignificant monthly fee. $5 here for a meditation application, $10 there for a streaming service, $15 for a premium fast shipping membership. In the exact moment you click subscribe, your brain registers the amount as a tiny, harmless expense. It feels like buying a cup of coffee. You sign up for a specific streaming platform just to watch one exclusive documentary everyone at the office is talking about. You download a highly rated fitness program because it promises to transform your morning routine, and you actually use it twice. You add a premium delivery tier to your grocery order because the bright green text on the checkout screen insists that it will save you $3 on today's delivery. You do this because your brain is calculating the immediate reward against a practically microscopic cost. Individually, these tiny charges look absolutely harmless when they scroll past on your monthly bank statement. They camouflage themselves effortlessly, hiding in plain sight among your regular trips to the grocery store and the gas station. They are specifically priced to fly under the radar of your financial panic threshold. Because the numbers are so small, your analytical brain completely ignores them, categorizing them as background noise rather than active threats to your wealth. But here is what nobody tells you about the modern subscription economy. These business models are not designed around providing you with continuous, life-altering value. They are built entirely on the mathematics of human inertia. Major corporations actually have a specific internal metric for people who pay for a service but never use it. They call them zombie subscribers. Entire billion-dollar valuations are built on the statistical probability that you will simply forget to cancel. This is where a devastating behavioral economics concept called mental accounting works against you. Mental accounting is how your brain subjectively categorizes money. When you see a monthly charge for $10, your brain treats it as a single, isolated $10 decision. It absolutely refuses to do the math and recognize it as a $120 annual contract. Your brain fails to calculate the aggregate weight of 20 different subscriptions bleeding your account simultaneously. Even when you do finally notice the charges and tell yourself you need to clean up your subscriptions, another psychological trap snaps shut. It is a biological survival mechanism known as loss aversion. The moment you think about canceling, your brain immediately focuses on the potential loss of access. You tell yourself that you might want to watch that specific movie next weekend, or that you might finally start using that language learning application on Monday. The pain of losing access to a potential future benefit feels mathematically heavier than the pain of losing $10 today. So you do nothing. And even if you manage to overcome loss aversion, the companies have built a final, impenetrable wall of defense. Canceling a subscription in the modern era requires navigating an absolute labyrinth of psychological friction. You have to remember a password you created 3 years ago. You have to click through 6 different pages begging you to stay, each one offering a slightly better discount. You might even be forced to dial a customer service number and verbally argue with a highly trained retention specialist. Your brain, already suffering from massive decision fatigue after a long day at work, simply cannot handle the cognitive load of the obstacle course. You close the browser window and tell yourself you will deal with it next week. You are not lazy for failing to cancel these services. You are the victim of a highly sophisticated system of weaponized friction. These companies made the sign-up process completely frictionless, often requiring just a single thumbprint or facial scan. But they made the exit process incredibly frictional. They know that your exhausted mind will always choose the path of least resistance, which in this case is simply letting the charge go through for one more month. How do we fix this without relying on a sudden burst of extreme willpower? We cannot rely on setting a calendar reminder to audit our bank statements every 30 days. That requires an ongoing input of mental energy that you simply do not have to spare. We have to design a structural, automated solution that violently disrupts the corporate machinery. We have to implement a strategy I call burning the ships. Once every single year, you must take a deep breath, pick up your phone, call your bank, and report your primary debit or credit card as lost. Yes, it sounds extreme, highly inconvenient, and slightly dramatic. That is exactly the point. When your bank cancels that card and issues you a new one with a completely different 16-digit number, every single invisible subscription you forgot about will immediately bounce. You have instantly severed the automatic drain on your wealth with one single action. You do not have to navigate their labyrinths or argue with their retention specialists. Over the next few weeks, you only manually input your new card number into the 2 or 3 services that you actively miss and genuinely use. The zombie subscriptions simply die in the dark. You have used a heavy, one-time application of artificial friction to permanently eliminate the need for monthly discipline. Let us turn our attention to the physical device sitting in your pocket right now, or perhaps the watch strapped to your wrist. The digital wallet has been marketed to us as the ultimate triumph of modern convenience. Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and contactless credit cards have completely transformed the way human beings exchange value. You simply hover your device over a terminal, wait for a tiny satisfying chime, look at a bright green check mark, and walk away with your goods. It feels incredibly sleek, deeply futuristic, and totally harmless. Think about how this actually plays out in your daily life. You are walking through an airport or standing in line at a high-end coffee shop, and you see something you want. You do not check your bank balance. You do not even look that closely at the price tag. You just pull out your phone, double-tap the side button, and let facial recognition do the rest. The entire transaction takes less than a second. It feels less like spending hard-earned money and more like unlocking a door or sending a text message. But underneath that seamless user experience lies a terrifying psychological reality. To understand what is truly happening when you tap your phone, we have to look at the neurological mapping of the human brain. A landmark study from MIT showed exactly how different payment methods alter our brain chemistry. Researchers placed subjects inside fMRI machines to monitor their neural activity while they made purchases using various methods, from physical cash to credit cards to digital abstractions. What they found completely shattered the traditional understanding of consumer behavior. When subjects paid for an item using physical paper cash, the literal pain centers of their brains lit up. Handing over a crisp $50 bill and watching it leave your possession physically hurts on a neurological level. This is an ancient biological survival response. Your brain registers the cash as a vital resource, and losing it triggers a deep, protective instinct to prevent starvation or exposure. However, when those exact same subjects paid for the exact same items using a credit card or a digital wallet, those pain centers remained completely dormant. The researchers discovered that by abstracting the money into a digital signal, the technology completely bypassed the biological friction of spending. You experience the massive dopamine hit of acquiring a new item, but you experience absolutely none of the neurological pain associated with losing your capital. This creates a massive state of cognitive dissonance within your financial life. You are bleeding resources, but your nervous system feels completely fine. The major technology and credit card companies understand this MIT study better than anyone. They know that if they can remove the pain of paying, they can bypass your logical filters entirely. They have perfectly lubricated the slide from your momentary desire directly to their corporate bank accounts. This dynamic becomes incredibly destructive when you combine it with the exhaustion of daily life. When you are suffering from willpower depletion, your brain is desperately seeking a reward that requires zero effort. The digital wallet is the ultimate enabler of this state. Because the money feels completely invisible, you casually tap your phone 3 or 4 times a day without breaking a sweat. A pastry here, a magazine there, a premium coffee upgrade. You are completely blind to the cumulative damage because there is no physical evidence of the loss. How do we stop this invisible bleeding without relying on a sudden, miraculous surge of self-discipline? You cannot simply promise yourself that you will be more mindful before you tap your phone. Mindfulness is a function of the prefrontal cortex, which we already know is running on fumes by the end of the day. Instead, we have to violently disrupt the digital convenience by injecting artificial friction back into our daily routines. We have to resurrect the pain of paying. You need to pick up your smartphone right now, navigate into the digital wallet settings, and completely disable the double tap to pay feature for your primary debit and credit cards. You must remove the main arteries of your wealth from that frictionless environment. If you insist on using a digital wallet for emergencies, tie it exclusively to a highly restrictive prepaid account that automatically receives only a tiny, fixed amount of your discretionary fund money every week. By removing your primary financial accounts from your digital wallet, you force a physical action. When you actually have to stop, dig through your bag, pull out a physical card, and insert the chip, you give your brain 3 crucial seconds to wake up. You break the hypnotic spell of the seamless transaction. You allow the natural friction of the physical world to do its evolutionary job of protecting your resources, saving you from the devastating cost of infinite convenience. Let us examine the ultimate justification we use to defend our most expensive conveniences, a concept that sounds incredibly sophisticated and financially literate. It is the idea that you are not simply buying a premium service, but rather you are strategically buying back your own time. You pay a 30% markup to have your groceries delivered, or you subscribe to an expensive meal kit service that sends you pre-measured ingredients. When you do this, you tell yourself a very specific, logical story to soothe your financial guilt. You calculate that your time is worth perhaps $50 an hour at your job. Therefore, paying a $20 delivery fee to save 2 hours of shopping and commuting seems like a brilliant mathematical trade. You are convinced that you are coming out ahead in this transaction. This logic feels completely bulletproof because it is the exact advice constantly parroted by productivity influencers and life hackers all over the internet. But here is what nobody tells you about the time-saving delusion. It is deeply mathematically flawed and fundamentally ignores your biological reality. When you use this logic, you are falling victim to a highly specific form of anchoring bias. You are anchoring the value of your Tuesday evening leisure time to your peak professional earning rate. But those 2 different blocks of time are absolutely not equal in the eyes of your neurochemistry. Behavioral economists at the University of Chicago have deeply studied this exact intersection of time, valuation, and willpower depletion. They wanted to see what actually happens in the real world when exhausted, stressed professionals use their disposable income to outsource their basic household tasks. They tracked the behaviors of people who actively bought back their time through convenience services to see where that newly acquired time actually went. The findings from these studies serve as a massive wake-up call for anyone trying to build wealth. When you buy back 2 hours of your evening using a premium convenience service, you almost never use those 2 hours to build a side business, learn a new, highly paid skill, or even engage in deep, truly restorative rest. That is the fantasy you sell yourself at the checkout screen, but it is not the reality of human behavior. Because your willpower is completely depleted from the demands of the workday, your brain immediately defaults to low-effort, high dopamine activities. You pay a premium financial cost to save, and then you spend those exact 2 hours mindlessly scrolling through social media, watching reality television, or staring blankly at a screen. You are trading hard-earned, heavily taxed dollars for low-quality, highly distracted downtime. You are not broken. You are not bad with money. Your brain is just doing exactly what an exhausted brain does when the cognitive fuel tank is empty. It aggressively seeks out the lowest possible cognitive load, but you have to recognize the harsh truth of this transaction. You are essentially paying a massive financial premium to massive corporations just so you can sit on your couch and be advertised to by other massive corporations. The entire convenience economy relies heavily on this cognitive dissonance. They sell you the beautiful, wealthy illusion of time freedom, knowing full well that you lack the biological energy to actually capitalize on it. You are voluntarily bleeding capital because you have confused the concept of having free time with the concept of having actual energy. Having an extra 2 hours in the evening does absolutely nothing for you if your battery is completely dead. To break out of this specific trap, you must fundamentally restructure how you view your weekly energy reserves. You cannot buy your way out of exhaustion using microtransactions. Instead, you have to build systems that reflect your actual biological reality, not a hypothetical spreadsheet that values every waking hour at your maximum corporate salary. You must stop trying to solve an energy problem with a money solution. The system fix for this requires aggressive structural batching designed around your peak energy windows. Instead of paying a premium for daily convenience when you are tired, you must shift the friction of life to the exact days when your willpower battery is fully charged. For most people, this is a Saturday or Sunday morning. You do not need to become a master chef or a hyper-productive robot, but you must consolidate your effort. You take 2 hours on a weekend morning to automate your meals, handle your errands, and organize your environment for the week ahead. You do the heavy lifting when your prefrontal cortex is fully active and capable of handling complex planning. By moving the physical and mental labor to a high-energy window, you completely eliminate the Tuesday night crisis, where you feel forced to spend $40 on delivery just to survive. When you implement this friction-based system, you stop bleeding wealth in the false pursuit of buying back time. You realize that true wealth is not about outsourcing every minor inconvenience. It is about designing a life where you do not need to constantly bribe yourself just to get through the week. You stop relying on the illusion of convenience and start living within a framework that actually honors both your money and your biology. We have spent a lot of time breaking down the invisible psychological traps that drain your wallet on a daily basis. We have looked at how your brain is hijacked when you are tired and how corporations build frictionless slides directly into your bank account. Now, we have to pull all the way back. We have to take off the neuroscientist hat and put on the macroeconomics hat. We need to look at what this daily behavioral hijacking actually costs you over the course of your entire life. The human brain is terrible at understanding long-term mathematics. We evolved to survive the next 24 hours, not to conceptualize 3 decades of compound interest. Because of this biological blind spot, we are incredibly susceptible to the illusion of small numbers. When you pay a $7 delivery fee or ignore a $15 subscription, your brain processes the impact as negligible. It categorizes the loss as a tiny, harmless leak that could never possibly sink the ship of your financial future. But let us aggressively calculate the true cost of the modern convenience tax. Think about the behaviors we just covered. Between food delivery markups, forgotten zombie subscriptions, frictionless digital wallet impulse buys, and the false pursuit of buying back time, It is incredibly easy for the average person to bleed $100 a week. For most people watching this, $100 a week in pure convenience spending is actually a very conservative estimate. Your brain looks at that $100 a week and shrugs. It tells you that you work hard and you deserve a little comfort. But let us run the actual math on that cognitive illusion. $100 a week is $5,200 a year. That is a significant amount of money, but it still might not sound terrifying enough to force a permanent behavioral change. The real terror begins when you apply the concept of opportunity cost and compound growth to that $5,200. Opportunity cost is the ultimate wealth-building reality check. It means that every single dollar you spend on convenience is a dollar that cannot be sent into the market to work for you. If you were to take that exact same $100 a week and systematically route it into a basic index fund tracking the broader stock market, assuming an historical average return of around 8%, the math becomes staggering. You begin to see the true price tag of your decision fatigue. Over a 10-year period, that redirected convenience tax grows to roughly $80,000. Over 20 years, it becomes $250,000. And over a 30-year working career, that seemingly harmless $100 a week transforms into over $600,000. Let that number sink in for a moment. More than $500,000 quietly siphoned out of your life through 1,000 tiny, frictionless taps on a screen. This is the exact moment where your cognitive dissonance shatters. You are not just buying a lukewarm meal that arrives 20 minutes late. You are not just keeping a streaming platform you watch twice a year. You are actively trading a $600,000 retirement asset for the temporary illusion of comfort. You are sacrificing a massive chunk of your ultimate financial freedom simply because you were too tired on a Tuesday evening to navigate a little bit of friction. I do not point this out to make you feel guilty. Guilt is a useless emotion that only leads to more willpower depletion. I point this out to show you the massive, life-altering stakes of this game. The corporations understand this math perfectly. They know that if they can capture your daily convenience spending, they will siphon hundreds of thousands of dollars of your potential wealth directly into their quarterly profits. They are building their massive corporate empires using the compound interest that rightfully belongs to your family. This creates a permanent divide between two specific types of people in our economy. The first person continues to rely on willpower. They try to budget using a spreadsheet. They fail when they get tired. They feel immense shame, and they unknowingly pay the $600,000 convenience tax over their lifetime. They spend 30 years feeling like they are running on an endless treadmill, never quite understanding why they cannot build real momentum despite working so hard. The second person accepts their biological reality. They know they will be exhausted at the end of the day. They expect to experience decision fatigue, so they build an automated, high-friction environment. They delete their saved cards. They burn their subscriptions once a year. They remove the digital wallet temptation. By designing a system that assumes they have zero discipline, they automatically capture that $100 a week, redirect it into investments, and quietly build a $500,000 fortune completely in the background of their life. We have spent this entire journey deconstructing the invisible forces that drain your wealth. By now, you should realize a profound truth that traditional finance completely ignores. You are not a failure because you ordered expensive takeout on a stressful Tuesday evening. You are simply a human being, operating exactly as evolution designed you to operate. When you finally stop blaming yourself for biological reactions, you completely strip the emotion out of money. You stop viewing your bank account as a reflection of your moral character and start viewing it as a mechanical system that simply needs better architecture. For decades, society has treated financial struggles as a fundamental moral failing. The gurus on television scream that if you spend money on a digital subscription or a premium delivery service, you lack discipline and character. This is a toxic lie designed to keep you trapped in a perpetual cycle of shame and willpower depletion. Shame is a completely useless emotion when it comes to building wealth. It drains your mental battery even faster, pushing you further into the exact decision fatigue that caused the problem in the first place. At its deepest level, Money is nothing more than stored human energy. Every dollar you earn represents a fraction of your time, your focus, and your physical vitality. When you continuously bleed those dollars to pay for momentary convenience, you are quite literally bleeding your future energy just to patch a temporary leak in your current energy. You are trading the ultimate freedom of your later years for the fleeting sedation of an exhausted Tuesday night. The corporations know this, and they have built their empires on that exact biological vulnerability. But you now possess the absolute antidote to this corporate machinery. The greatest financial minds and the most successful wealth builders do not wake up every single day and use extreme willpower to make good choices. They do not fight their biology. Instead, they accept their human limitations and aggressively design an environment where doing the financially correct thing requires absolutely zero effort. They understand that willpower is a finite resource, so they completely remove it from the equation. The twin pillars of this new financial philosophy are automation and friction. You must automate every single wealth-building behavior so that it happens invisibly in the background of your life. Your investments, your savings, and your debt payments must trigger the exact moment your paycheck clears before you even have a chance to look at the money. Conversely, you must introduce heavy, annoying physical friction into every single spending trap that previously relied on convenience. When you implement this system, something incredible happens to your neurochemistry. The underlying chronic anxiety that hums in the background of your daily life begins to evaporate. You no longer have to constantly negotiate with yourself about what you can and cannot afford. Because the boundaries are physically set and the wealth building is automated, you experience a massive freeing of cognitive space. You can finally experience genuine, restorative rest without the heavy burden of financial guilt weighing on your chest. We have to fundamentally redefine our understanding of the word convenience. The technology companies have convinced you that convenience is having a hamburger delivered to your front porch in 20 minutes, or tapping a piece of glass to unlock a premium television show. But that is a microscopic, impoverished view of what convenience can actually be. True, ultimate convenience is waking up at 50 years old, looking at your investment portfolio, and knowing that you never have to sit in traffic or answer to a toxic boss ever again. True convenience is having the total autonomy to design your days exactly as you see fit. It is the ability to walk away from situations that drain your energy because your past self had the wisdom to build a defensive financial wall around you. You are no longer someone who relies on fleeting bursts of motivation to manage a budget. You are now an architect. You design physical systems that ruthlessly protect your resources from the algorithmic traps of the modern economy. As you move forward, I want you to give yourself profound grace for the times you fell into these traps in the past. You were fighting a multi-billion-dollar psychological machine with a depleted brain and no armor. But today, the rules of engagement have permanently changed. You have the blueprint. You understand the biological mechanics of the trap, and you hold the tools required to dismantle it. The path of least resistance will no longer lead to your financial ruin. It will lead automatically to your financial freedom. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below. And if you want to understand the deeper psychology behind why we do what we do with our money, hit subscribe. This is Minecraft, where ideas become action, and action becomes your future.